professors do and should do in working together. Go ahead, and in the meantime, I expect Caroline will join us.
Okay. Thank you for having. I'm always glad to see you all, and especially to see our Professor Emeritus from Osijek, Professor Singer. Welcome. So it's always good to talk, although I'm not even retired and definitely not Professor Emeriti, but I'm glad that I can help you, and that based on the research we are doing is something that we can continue. Also, when Jože said about how to proceed and what to do, the thing is that how to have more and what are the challenges the retired professors face in when they go retired is that basically it's what I heard today even on when I spoke with our Vice Dean, is the question of the loss of access to IT equipment, the privileges, like including the email account, software, the different support services upon retirement. And also, this is kind of a huge barrier for the retired faculty who wish to stay academically active. I know that we have found a hybrid version at our faculty, but it's always hard to do it everywhere. Also, the question is the lack of access to the e-services, and that can marginalize the retired professors in an increasingly digital world. Because now, as we are also having this meeting online, the professors who are maybe not well IT literate can have the difficulties with staying in touch with their colleagues all over the world. Also, the question of non-transparency is here, because the inconsistent policies across the institutions, they leave retirees uncertain about their rights and options for continued IT use, especially when this IT use is connected with the question of using the faculty email addresses and stuff. But if we, as working professors and the faculties, what can we basically benefit of ensuring the IT access to the retired professors is while with providing the IT access, it can help maintaining strong ties between the retired professors and the university. Of course, fostering the goodwill and potential collaboration, because all the professors who are retired, that they have organizational knowledge, they have the contacts which can help us currently working in continuing to work on different research activities, especially using the contacts they have. Also, the question is sometimes that the faculty may say that there is a cost, but of course the cost of maintaining IT access for retirees is minimal compared to the value they can bring through mentorship, research, and institutional loyalty. And the last but not least is also the access to the IT resources can ease the transition into retirement by enabling continued engagement with academic network. And this is also something that retired professors can help with the current activities the faculty has, and also to increasing the reach of young researchers. And of course, they can help the young researchers through mentorship. Now I could talk and try to be smart and telling what to do. So there should be several proposals. What I found while preparing for this meeting is basically that universal access should be given to the retired faculty, not just emeriti professors, because they, as I said, they can help a lot to the current people and also with their knowledge and their mentorship possibilities. Of course, we could introduce renewable sponsored accounts for retirees engaged in academic or institutional activities, because lots of people who retired, they are still connected on, especially in the PhD studies or different activities with the non-retired, let's call them. And also it should be the guidelines for giving and continuing the IT access should be clearly communicated, because if something is not clearly communicated, it can then create problems it can create stress, and then it can create different disputes between retired and working professors. Now, what the IT services for retirees should be based, of course, as we in Croatia, we have through the Ministry of Science and Education, we have an access to the tools like Microsoft 365, which enables us to be in contact. And also the faculty itself is enabling some of the IT services. So this is something that I can, at least on our faculty, can state as good examples. And I know that some of our retired professors have still the email access, although it's not the same and on all faculties in our universities. Also, in case there is a need, the university administration or faculty administration should offer training programs on using the new technologies to bridge digital skill gaps. And this was seen especially when there was a COVID, when we had to transfer from on-site to online education. And we noticed that there are different digital skill gaps for different age groups of our professors. And of course, we should have and maintain the help desk support for troubleshooting the IT issues faced by retired faculty, and which can be caused by either the digital skill gaps or the problems they may face with their equipment. And what else is needed is definitely the collaboration with the Emeriti network, something we are having now, and like these meetings and the meetings we have had previously, is to encourage the Emeriti professors to advocate for the equitable treatment of all retired faculty regarding the IT access. So basically, all retired professors should have the continued email access, because I think it's not, as we said, it's not a huge cost, but it can bring additional value. And definitely the influence the Emeriti professors and Emeriti networks can help to shape the inclusive policies which universities should have or should. I have found several case studies around the world. So there is a university in Amherst which offers Microsoft application, Zoom access, and specialized software licenses for retirees with valid use cases. So they have the retired professors should present why they need, and then your university will approve their access and their use of the different IT products. The Clemson University, they provides extended account access upon request from department heads or deans. And last but not least is what I found that University of Toronto is also allowing annual renewal of Microsoft 365 licenses for retired faculty engaged in departmental work. So these are some of the good cases and what faculty should do or should try to do in allowing the retired professors, retired Emeriti professors to continue their work and continue adding the value to the faculties we know and where we work at the moment. So this is the story maybe for the beginning, and especially coming from someone who is still working and still has at least 11 years before I will be retired. But yeah, I do hope that based on my current, let's say, state of mind, that I will need this access when I go to retirement. And I would like to have it when I go to retirement, at least because I'm used to it and it helps me at the moment a lot. And probably my work habits will continue when I'm older, let's put it this way. So thank you very much. And I'll now give floor to Jože.
I appreciate very much your speech, because there are some points that are basic points for our collaboration, and also that are fundamental for our activity in my country, in Italy. First of all, I totally agree with you when you speak that the most important aspect for retired professors is that to be themselves engaged in the university, not, as I can say, put it outside the university, because as I have told with our colleague, what is terrible is that the professors are, especially in Italy, I don't know the situation of the other countries, the professors are judged very important when they are acting. But at the end of this acting, they are unuseful practical. There is no connections. The universities preparing these connections are not existing also in Italy. And I think that this is truly one of the field to be considered and to be, as I can say, to be developed. We are not persons having no possibility to act when we leave our universities. We are alive, we have our head, and so we can do many things. This to be engaged is sure. Another aspect I am appreciating very much of your speech is the fact that, as you say, communicate these possibilities of action to the retiring persons when they are at the end of the career. That is, it has to be clear that I am leaving my universities, but I maintain some rights with reference to my Athenaeum, to my university. And as you can say, and one of the reasons for which I am following with big interest what you have told is that I am sure that the help, the continuous help of emeriti professors in this, along this, as you can say, orientation, no? Of to consider and to, as you can say, also increase the rights of the retiring professors is the true street for me to act inside. Thanks indeed for your intervention. Tutto si è fermato.
Jože, if you can continue.
Sure. I have told the best problems of my, and I think it is sufficient. I should wish to hear also some of my colleagues, of the other colleagues, as I have followed you.
Okay. So before we continue, I'd like just to say who are the presenters today. So today we have the presentation opportunities in using ChatGPT by Professor Hirst. Then we will have the Caroline Lenavec, and we'll have Martin Stammers also as a discussant, and then we'll have the Aaron Guest as a presenter. So I'd like now to invite Professor Hirst to start with her presentation.
We're going to swap you. Can we have a share screen, please, so I can put my PowerPoints up?
Yeah, everyone can share the screen.
Thank you. Okay, so let's just pull this up. It's not showing share screen yet, so.
Anyone can share now. I mean.
Okay, well, let's pull it up for you then. And can you see that screen?
Yeah,
everyone?
we're starting. Yeah, we can see it.
Good, perfect. And let's put that into the slideshow for you.
Presentation mode, please.
That's what I'm looking for here. It should be okay to pull up. There we go. Let me just take you a step back first. Okay, so we're on track. Oh, that's where I want to start. I'm going to start introducing our agenda, and then Carolyn will take on. But I did want to introduce you, first of all, to Walter Archer, who is the president of our national association, the College and University Retiree Association of Canada. So, Walter, thank you very much for joining us. A lot of what Carolyn and I are doing here has been triggered by some of the conversations at that board level. So, Walter, did you want to say good morning or hello, or?
I'll just say hello, and yes, it is morning here. I suspect it isn't at lots of other places.
No, it's not.
And so thank you all. It is getting into spring. We have several other national board members with us, so thank you for joining us. This is our agenda for about the next hour. So Dr. Lynn Nevenak is going to talk a little bit about personal experiences. I'm going to build on that about our own learning using ChatGPT. And then we're going to have Martin Stairs, who is an information architect, build on what the foundation we have laid for you. Absolutely open to questions. We'll probably save them to the end unless something's pressing. And Martin will also address those questions for us. So I think we're on track with that. Carolyn, we're going to turn it over to you first.
Okay, I'll just be a few seconds. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes? Okay, good.
Yes.
I want to thank our two co-chairs for inviting us back. We, as you recall, back in February 2022, we did a presentation on e-learning tools and partnerships used by Professor Emeriti to facilitate teaching, learning activities among older adults and their families, some illustrative examples. And at that time, I also was wanting to see more intergenerational learning. So we had a student involved to create a YouTube video of the session, which is still available. And thank you, Josie, for making sure that it's still included there. I must say that ChatGPT I had heard about, but I thought, what on earth is that? This artificial intelligence, isn't it all computer kinds of based intelligence? However, I am learning and have used one of the references that Dr. Hirst is providing. But I think in terms of instructing or helping our universities engage us retirees. I always consider ourselves people on long-term sabbatical because most of us are very much involved in that. So I think one of the big chores these days is how can we inform the university administration to just include us people on long-term sabbatical very much as their community, because we talk about community engagement, and it's usually how we are involved with the university and how we're involved with local communities as well as international and global communities. So my hope is that sessions that you folks are organizing will help us instruct and inform the universities. I wanted to invite the policy advisor for the Minister of Seniors for Canada, but as you probably know, elections are going on here and things are kind of unsettled. So, but next time, maybe. So that's all really I wanted to say. And thank you, Dr. Hirst, for chairing this session.
Thanks, Carolyn. Let me start by situating myself for you. I am a neophyte in this. When I retired from the university, we did not use chat, we did not use AI, we did not use any of those situations within the context. But more and more being retired, we are still maintained with artificial intelligence. And so a little bit of why to situate ChatGPT is one strategy. But as an academic, I still have graduate students, I still have committee work, and we are exposed to the world of artificial intelligence. And I have to admit, it was Martin Stairs coming up later who actually triggered me to use ChatGPT. I was complaining to him about the inability to take minutes and people not volunteering to take minutes at our local and one of our national groups. Not Walter, not Curac, but another national board. Had to clarify that. And so he said to me, well, why don't you try ChatGPT? It's one method of artificial intelligence. And I thought, I'm not going to try that. But I took a step, I tried it. And what I have found is that Such artificial intelligence algorithms can actually be used to create new content, audio clips, images, text, simulations, videos. Now, all these PowerPoint slides will be available to you afterwards. I'll send everything out to you. It's just a way of introducing myself. ChatGPT is only one. Zoom, for example, also does transcripts.
Yeah.
There are other options available to us. This is the one that I am most comfortable with. So I'm talking about how do we use it within our local Calgary retiree group, a little bit about national, which may surprise a couple of things I'm going to say, Walter, both with our CURAC Association, but also with another national board that I sit on as nonprofit. How do we use it to effectively work together and move forward in our strategies? So I started thinking about, okay, Sandy, how do we use it? And if you have a look at these potential uses, first of all, locally and nationally, we use it to communicate, to send out messages, send out emails, to engage in invitations. I just did an invitation to an event sponsored by our local group. I used ChatGPT. I used it to help plan and coordinate that event. I've used it to list memberships. Why would someone join an association? I've used it for advocacy and developing a letter. But the point is, all of these strategies, I actually developed this list of uses using ChatGPT. I went into ChatGPT and said, make me a list of why, as a local group, would I use ChatGPT? And this is what it came up with. And then I started thinking about what do I do locally and on several national boards. This is what I do. Advocacy recently, let me give you an example. Jože, you talked about sending a letter out to each government for a minister for seniors. I actually have crafted such a letter, and it's gone out to every single political party for one of our national associations concerned about abuse of older adults. So it generated a letter, consistent letter to our 5 political parties. But then what I had to do was go in and modify it based on the need of that individual party. So I said to ChatGPT, modify this letter to address the Liberal Party in Canada. Modify this letter to address the Conservative Party. It did it for me. It saved me time. It was efficient. And I actually thought I wrote a really good letter thanks to ChatGPT. So let me tell you some of the things we've been doing with it, both locally and nationally. Minutes. Consistently, as I mentioned earlier, it's really challenging sometimes to get people to make minutes. So I take the transcript from Zoom, I simply put it into ChatGPT, and I say, make meeting notes. Those meeting notes look a little bit thin, they look a little bit sparse. ChatGPT, expand those meeting notes, provide me with more details. It'll do it for me in a couple of minutes. Now, I would add to that, I do actually pay 20 Canadian dollars per month for ChatGPT. That probably works out to, please correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 8 or 9 euros per month. Carolyn, am I right with that?
Somewhere around there, but I
Okay.
think Josie could tell us too.
So if the minutes aren't flushed out enough detail, I simply say, Chat, flush them out, give me more detail. I also added, we have a local newsletter called Laura's Retirees. I had to give contact for CURAC. So I said, okay, ChatGPT, create some information for me based on what you know about CURAC. Now, it's okay, Walter, because I'm going to come later and say I have to edit and review it, but it does help give me some content. Clarify policy news. We have a healthcare policy committee at CURAC on looking at immunizations, looking at vaccinations. We've talked about shingles. So I don't know a lot about that. So chat, search the web. Let me know a little bit more about immunizations. Let me know a little bit more about shingles in older adults. And that helps me keep informed and keep up to date. One of the other ideas, brainstorming advocacies ideas. How can we as a healthcare policy committee advocate? Now that can be done locally, it can be done nationally, but it helps expand my thinking. And it's always that expansion of my thinking. I have to do a session in a couple of weeks on elder abuse. So Okay, chat, help me do a session on financial abuse, pulling from the literature. Focus on Canada. Sorry, American colleagues that focused on the US. I said bring up some Canadian content. What do we know about that? It helps me write invitations or posters. It also has the survey questions, but with a little bit of care and caution I will be coming back to later. This is a sample of what I did over the past couple of days. We're going to have a special talk, for example, locally. This is an invitation that we can send out. I said to ChatGPT, got a session coming up this week, 2:30 to 3:30 faculty lounge, draft out an invitation for me. It did that, 2 minutes. I copy it, paste it into the email, and send it off. It doesn't assume, and I will come back to this point, that it's no critical thinking, no checking, no verification. It's a start. It is not the end. That end responsibility is mine. I'm not going to go through all the advantages and disadvantages, but there are some that we do need to be especially aware of. I've already mentioned absolutely it saves my time, without a doubt. I can take minutes from a recording and transcribe them quite quickly, quite efficiently. I don't use it to handle large databases yet, but it can also customize. I can say, Carolyn's a friend of mine. Make it a little bit friendlier invitation. One of the examples I will use is when we had nominations to our national board, I played with it a little bit, saying, send out a personal invitation to people I know who may be interested in coming off our board. For example, I would say, Peter is a social worker. He's out of Ontario. Craft this email for me to meet Peter's needs. Didn't help, but I tried, versus the generic one. It can be done 24 hours a day. If you know Carolyn, you know she works at midnight. Sharing a room with her when we go to a conference, absolutely she works at midnight. She can do this at 12 o'clock at night. I don't need staff person. So those sorts of things, it really does work well. But they're all biases. Just because you use ChatGPT, I've found, it doesn't mean it's perfect. It only relies on information to it. So I have to verify, I have to read it, I have to critique it. I have to correct spelling errors. And the one, certainly with names, spelling errors come through. And the other thing I find is I don't want to stop my own thinking brain. I can use ChatGPT, but I need to critically think about it. What do I like? What don't I like? So some of those things, privacy, I'll come back to in a minute, but it does raise accountability. I think most of us, when we submit articles now online or we review, you have to check a box off saying artificial intelligence was not used. This was self-generated. So I'm really conscientious when I review a manuscript for peer review. I do not use ChatGPT. It's unethical. When I write a manuscript, I do not use ChatGPT because the journal is asking for my own work of submission. I have used it to say, am I making any spelling or grammar mistakes? But the original work has to be mine. And ChatGPT and AI don't have any common sense. I have common sense. I know that if I write a letter to the government on advocacy, 1 page will work. Don't make it longer than 2 pages, they won't read it. I've sat on enough government committees to know that. So those are some of the things I'm thinking about. I have to go back to privacy and intellectual honesty. I'm really, Carolyn, I'm going to use an example. Carolyn and I were playing last week with using French in transcriptions. And Carolyn gave me permission to use a Zoom transcript of a personal phone call she had with colleagues in France in French. I translated it, but I only did the first 2 minutes. Would it go from French into English? Yes, ChatGPT would do that. But I don't have the right of access to Carolyn's personal story and her conversation. So I cut it off after 2 minutes. And I informed Carolyn I got her permission from what I was doing. So I think, Carolyn, I think you recognize that when you said,
That's right.
"Take it back to me." So there are privacy issues. The other thing I'm really careful is I don't overshare information. I don't send out Carolyn's information to the world without Carolyn's permission. She did give me permission to send a copy of that translated from French to English transcript to the colleagues in Montreal who are doing our national conference, but that was done with her permission. ChatGPT and AI does not take away my need to think critically. Is this, Jose, the letter that I was talking about to our ministers? I had to review that. It was a really good letter, but I had to think about it. Is it being too critical? Is it being appropriate? Is it working within the timeline that we have? I have not as yet, though Martin may address this later for us, had to report inappropriate content. Be cautious with AI generated. Again, it's reading. I do not use AI for personal text. We do not use it locally in our group. Walter, I don't think we use it naturally at all that way either. And I don't rely on AI for everything. Stay informed. You'll laugh at this, but my way of staying informed, I will ask Martin, what am I missing? What catch up? And he keeps me informed as well, in addition to going into the literature. And if you look at the literature on healthcare and AI, it's absolutely exploding right now. But that's the scientific evidence-based literature. The practical reality of using it, I come from Martin. This is one resource that Martin compiled down for us through Carol Lynn. It's a really good ChatGPT for users. Easy, simple, you can work at your own pace. Now I'm going to introduce Martin Stairs for you. Martin Stairs is European. Well, not to say European, Martin, if you're coming from England, but his whole background and perspective is computer technology, information technology. He's been an information architect for a number of years, and I'll move it over to him to share with you, and I will stop sharing my screen. Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sandy. That was very useful. I would say that if everybody was even up to the same level that you were, that would be a very useful place for them to be. So just to introduce myself very briefly, I'm very pleased to be here talking to the Professors Emeriti Network. I'm an information architect. I'm a solutions consultant. What that means is I love understanding new technologies and I love explaining them to others. And I love explaining them to others so they can use them to meet their own objectives. That was my career for many years. When I started consulting, a consulting session with my clients, I would first say, I can't solve your problems. And there was a bit of a shock. And then I would say, but I may be able to help you solve your own problems in new ways. So using ChatGPT is not just about the technology, but it's about imagination, vision, experimentation. And that's what you bring. I can talk a little bit about the technology. Actually, I can talk a lot about the technology, but you're the ones with the problems, and then the vision, the imagination, experimentation to help solve them. I actually do have some experience with university retiree associations. I did volunteer work for 2 of them, and I used ChatGPT in both of them. Now, the first one was in February 2023. That's 2 years ago. And the second one was 2 years later in March this year. So you can imagine how much ChatGPT has changed in that time. But more importantly, the way that we use it has changed. And so I'll talk about both pieces of work, and you will see how ChatGPT has changed, how you can use it. Personally, you may not want to do this work with ChatGPT yourself, but you may want to think about how other people could use it. Think about it like an AI expert like me is like a webmaster. You have an idea of what you want on your website, but you certainly don't go into the website and do it yourself. Same with ChatGPT. You may have an idea, could ChatGPT help us in these various ways? And then somebody like myself who likes to play with AI can see if we can make it a reality or not. Anyway, I hope this talk will give you some ideas on how to use ChatGPT in the network. So as I said, I started in 2023, and ChatGPT was mainly used to create and manipulate content. And Sandy has described some really, really good use cases. But the main function at that time was accelerating existing processes. And for many people, even today, this is their mental model. And I want to build on this by showing that maybe it can accelerate not just your processes, but your creativity and your capability to imagine and innovate. So anyway, that sounds rather grand, and we have to build up to that. So let me show you how I built up to that over the years. The first piece of work I did was for CURAC, the College and University Retiree Associations of Canada. And by the way, Carolyn is on its board of directors. Its website has a calendar of interesting events, including this one. And I agreed to manage their event calendar. And the process was straightforward. Representatives from the retiree associations across Canada would send Carolyn emails about upcoming events. She would send them to me, and I would manually enter them into the calendar. Not a very smooth process, but not a big deal because there weren't too many events. But imagine if there were 1,000 events per month, that would be a different thing. The problem was every retiree association had a different style. So one of the first things I did was to work with Carolyn on a standard format, and then I would manually convert all the incoming emails into this format. So after a while, even though it was low volume, I wondered whether I could get ChatGPT to do this. Now remember, I was just starting out with ChatGPT at this time, so I took baby steps. And this is a nice thing about ChatGPT. It's not like writing a program, it's having a conversation. You start small, you break your problem down into little pieces, and you build from there. And this, to be honest, is what everybody on this call is good at, breaking down problems into pieces and building from there. So here's what I did. I copied and pasted the content of an email into ChatGPT, and I took my very first step. Can you extract the date? Yes, it replied. Can you extract the title? Yes. Now I knew I was onto something. Okay, display all the information in the order we agreed with Carolyn. And this included having some things bold and some things italic. And I tried it with some real email. Good. Oh no, here's an event you have to pay for. So I added an instruction. If there is a cost, state the cost. Otherwise, say this is a free event. Worked like a charm. Oops, here's another one. This is an event that's online and on site. I need another instruction on how to handle that case. So finally it worked okay, and it was very satisfying. And to be honest, this was my first baby, and I fell in love with it. So after I finished the project with Carolyn, I continued to use this program to explore new functionality as it was released by ChatGPT. So here's one thing. Could I generate the event in both English and French at the same time? ChatGPT, can you generate English and French versions of the event at the same time? Yes, it said. Okay, do it. Imagine my feeling when two events came out, one in English and one in French. It's very exciting to get this kind of immediate feedback. And that's the nice thing for some people about playing with ChatGPT. You can start small, you can iterate, you can you can let your imagination run freely. Another one, could we pull in more speaker information? ChatGPT, can you give me a speaker bio? Yes, and it did. Then I realized I wasn't connected to the internet. Hey, ChatGPT, how did you get that bio? Oh, I made it up, it said. I made it up from the information about the speaker. I had his title, I had his institution, I had the subject of the talk. I made it up. Not good enough. So as Sandy was saying, you always have to have, the term is a human in the loop. And so I had to be the human in the loop. But then I played and said, can we go to the speaker's institution and find their bio from there and make a link to it? Absolutely, we could. Okay, let me stop there. I played a lot, but the important thing is how I was doing the job. I was telling ChatGPT step by step what to do. I was almost like being a programmer. Give me a title, go to the speaker's institution, get me a link to his bio, get me a photo, add them to the event in the speaker section. Very much like a programmer at a high level. That all changed last year. Last year, ChatGPT lets you provide input in more ways, not just typing text. So you could upload a PDF. You could give it a screenshot. You could point your phone camera and say, ChatGPT, what are you seeing? And respond to it. That was very, very transformational, and that opens up a lot of capability for people like yourselves. Now you can show ChatGPT what you want instead of telling it how to build it. So let's go back to the event calendar example. Remember way back, Carolyn and I had agreed on a format, and I typed it up in a PDF. I gave ChatGPT that document, and here's exactly what I said. Here is a document showing the desired format of events for an events calendar. I will upload text describing an event. Please transform it into this format. And then I copied in the text from an email that Carolyn had received. And it did it. I didn't have to say, put the title on the first line and the subject and the date on the second line. No, I said, this is what I want, do it. So this is a huge paradigm shift. And this is a very, very common theme, specifying what you want rather than how to do it. And we've seen lots of examples, and week by week, there are more and more examples like this. I gave you the example, I want a calendar event that looks like this. An easy extrapolation would be, I want a newsletter that looks like this. In analytical work, you can say, I want a spreadsheet that does this. And you don't have to know Excel. You just say what you want. These days, people are saying, building tools that let you say, I want a website that does this. I want a video that tells a story. It involves a different skill. It's not like a programmer now. You have to be able to describe what you want to accomplish and what you want it to look like. You're more like a business analyst than a programmer. You're more like a solutions expert than a business analyst. So let me stop there. That was the first example, and it's already shown more capabilities and a slightly different way of behaving. And the second example was from 2025, a few weeks ago. I was asked to review a website for the University of Calgary Retirees Association. And reviewing websites is something that I've done many times, and I have a good process. And in a way, this example is talking about how you get your expertise into ChatGPT. Okay, so these days, ChatGPT can explore a website if you give it a URL. So once again, this was the first time I'd done it with ChatGPT. I broke the task into small pieces. First thing I said, create a site map of the website. And I got a list of all the pages on the site, their name and the description. Very useful. I used to do that by hand. Next question, okay, critique this. And it came back with some things that I noticed as well. The navigation is too complex. Some content is hidden really too deeply. The user would want to see this a little bit sooner. This is all good and valid, and anybody could do it. You could do it, but I have this special knowledge. So I asked some different questions as well. First of all, I wanted to find out, was the site effective? Was it doing its job? Now, the association has a set of objectives, and you've seen things like this. You've written things like this, perhaps. Its objective is to be the vehicle which brings together retirees for the betterment of the membership and their families, etc., etc. Here's what I told ChatGPT. These are the association's stated objectives. Phrase by phrase, how well are they supported? ChatGPT thought for less than a minute, and it gave me a list of ways that the objectives were not met. There are no clear channels for volunteering, etc., etc. I turned things around, reverse that. Which pieces of content on the site have no clear alignment to the objectives? It thought for a few seconds, almost immediate response, and then it gave me a list of things that really weren't the most important for the members of this association. One example was parking. Another question, if I remove this content, what would be a good structure? It gave me a good structure. Next question, next instruction, write up a draft report. Now it was good, and it had used my special expertise. As Sandy said, you need the human in the loop. I didn't quite like the tone. There were some things I wanted to add manually. There were some things that it made up, just like it made up the bio of a speaker earlier on. So I had to tweak, but it saved me hours and hours of work. So that's the second example. Let me just pause for breath and maybe let you slow down a little bit and absorb of what you said. Here are some of the takeaways. Using ChatGPT is not just about the technology, but it's about imagining what the problem is you have and how you solve it. It's about vision. It's about experimentation. I'm very lucky. I have all of these in my small area. If you're building ChatGPT competence, you will need people who can play some of the roles that I was lucky enough to be able to play. You need somebody who keeps track of new capabilities. Hey team, did you know that ChatGPT can now access the web? Did you know it can now analyze websites? You want somebody who loves playing with ideas and trying out new things with ChatGPT itself. That may not be you. Probably is not you, to be honest. Not all of you. You need somebody who decides what problems would be good to pursue. That wouldn't be me. And you need a subject matter who can describe the problem in detail that you're trying to solve and what makes a good solution. And in the example I saw about analyzing a website, I had the expertise to ask a certain type of questions. So not everybody is tech savvy. Not everybody understands new announcements. Not everybody understands your organization's needs. You need probably more than one person working closely to be able to do that. That's pretty much all I have to say. I hope some lights came on as I went through that, and I wish you good luck as you go forward with your explanations. So I'll hand it back to you, Jose, and I'll take questions. And Sandy, you said I'll be taking questions, but I don't have to answer them all. Anybody who's got an insight, whether it's the presenters or attendees, please feel free to add your comments as well. Okay, over to you, Jose.
One comment, I think the last point about teamwork, the example of you and Carolyn and I, the three of us doing some work together, achieved more than the individual alone could do.
Thank you.
So we turn it back to Jose for questions, and Eddie, we'll just open it up to questions and comments, or?
Yes, Sandy, just carry it on and organize the discussion. There are two important directions that we would like to encourage people to discuss. One, what can I do with that? And two, how can I do and use some assistance and help of experts, as we already heard Martin Sters, what he can help us and provide advice. Please run the discussion.
Eric's got his hand up.
Yeah, just a very quick kind of preceding discussion. Martin, you talked about ChatGPT, and that was certainly one of the first ones. But there are many other AI systems that exist out there as well, from Perplexity to Claude to Deep AI, DeepSeek, which is Chinese AI. I'm just looking at my list here, Meta AI. So my question is, have you had a chance to look at any of those other AI systems and how they might be helpful as well?
Yeah, that's a really useful question, Eric. And yes, I have. I use ChatGPT in the same way that we use Hoover to describe all vacuum cleaners, but really it's an abbreviation for a type of solution. So yes, I've used Claude and some of the other technologies. I would say that to a large extent, the thought process in how to use the technology is largely the same. So that if you're a visionary or somebody who wants to deconstruct a problem, you will still use those same skills. What you will find is that some products, and even within some products, even within ChatGPT, there are different models with different capabilities. Some are better for problem solving, some are better for research, some are better for everyday. Each of those will have their own strengths and weaknesses. And because I play mostly at the prototype level, so that I can say, here's something that you may want to try, then staying within ChatGPT works well for me. If I were going into production and really wanted to ramp up the technology, then I would hand it over to somebody who's more of an expert in the various models and let them experiment on which ones meet their needs better.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Carolyn has a question. Would you have an idea of how ChatGPT could compile a message to university administration in, what was the rest of it, Carolyn? I lost it.
To invite our engagement with students, new faculty in areas of teaching, learning, research, and so on.
Can I answer that first, Martin, and you add? Carolyn, we can simply do that, you and I, over a Zoom call. We can give the key points you want to raise. I'll say to ChatGPT, craft a letter to the university to include this, this, and this.
Yeah.
We then look at it. We identify if it's appropriate. Do we want to change the tone? Do we want to change the substance? Do we want to make it longer? Do we want to give examples?
Yeah.
That could be done quite quick and easy. Martin, is that a correct statement?
It really is. I mean, in some ways, Carolyn, you could type that
into
instruction directly into ChatGPT, and it will say, "I'll be pleased to help. Tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to accomplish. What do you mean by engagement? What areas? What do you mean by and so on?" And then you will say, "Well, what I mean by and so on is this." And in a way, you wouldn't need to talk to Sandy about it. You would talk to ChatGPT about it, and then you would look at it and say, yes, this is actually not quite what I want. The tone is not right. It's talking like a little bit too formally. It's not talking the way I want to talk, and you could ask it to change the tone. But a better conversation would not be you talking to Sandy. A better activity would be you sitting down with Sandy and typing that in to ChatGPT together.
That's why I was smiling, Martin.
Watching what comes up. Yes, exactly. So,
yeah, I was smiling because I know if I said to Carolyn, use ChatGPT to say to me, you do it, Sandy. So I would want Carolyn to think that's what you want.
The thing is, I was wondering if in Europe, does this ever happen?
Does what ever happen?
Josie? Whereby you send out messages to university administrators about how to involve us people on long-term sabbatical?
To be honest, the letter I sent out 2 years ago in order to collect some ideas about what the university is doing, how open is university to retired professors.
Yeah.
I didn't use any tool, no artificial intelligence, very simple questions. However, I started to learn that it is far more important area than we thought before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it wasn't sent to university administrators. It was sent to people like us, right?
Some rectors, some deans, the attention we had, the reaction was very different from rather positive, particularly in Canada and United States, where they said, no problem, our colleagues are using technology after they retire, to a rather close situation in Europe, where most of universities would say, look, guys, now you are retired, you are off and have a good time, and we have no connection with you, and you can no longer use university technology. This is what Aleksandar Erceg mentioned at the beginning. It is far more important area than we thought, and far more dangerous for our colleagues who will not be able to engage, be helped, be supported, and just said, look, they're gone. It's out of the way. Let me give an example which has nothing to do with artificial intelligence, but the attitude in Europe. European Statistical Office is collecting data on use of internet for several years. They're asking age groups how and what you do with internet. The last group they have is age 65, 74. And what the rest, they don't exist. Statistically, people do not exist in Europe from perspective of internet usage after they are 75. It's not professors, people in general. 2 years ago, I wrote the first letter to our agency in Slovenia and in Brussels, Eurostat. And guess what? In Slovenia, they will start collecting data this year, and Eurostat said we will start in 26. Those agencies are 10 years behind. Mm-hmm. And in 10 years, many people will just really go away without the benefits we could use.
Or could contribute. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
May I suggest some colleagues I would very much welcome? Eric Pocket from Minneapolis, University of Minnesota. I spent 4 semesters in Minnesota, and I fall in love with Minnesota and Minnesotans. How do you go about your support to retired professors using technology and particularly artificial intelligence?
Yeah, thanks for that. And there are quite a few things that we do here in Minnesota that may take a little bit of time. So let me try to be a little bit more brief. University of Minnesota is governed by what's called a board of regents. I don't know if that exists around the world, but it's essentially the board of directors that the president of the university reports to. And the board of regents selected by our government in Minnesota. But the reason I mentioned that is that there is a policy, a written policy within the board of regents that specifically states that Emeriti faculty will maintain their IT rights, their full IT, email, access to all of the servers and online resources of the University of Minnesota. And a couple of years ago, I surveyed the other Big Ten schools, which are now 18, schools in the United States. And of the ones that responded, I think there are 10 out of, at the time, 14 retiree organizations in the Big Ten network. All of them retain Emeriti, IT, email, electronic database access. However, now I know we're talking about Emeriti, but there are also non-Emeriti who retire, of course, and contribute substantially to the success of all of our higher education institutions. Just last year, the University of Minnesota deleted email accounts for staff. And I only mention that because there are a lot of people that were affected by that within our retiree organizations here at Minnesota. That includes both faculty, staff, civil service, hourly paid, everybody. Anybody that retires from the University of Minnesota can be part of our retiree organization. So that's the first part with the IT. The other part I think that you're asking, and again, I'll try to be brief, is that we have a written agreement with the university through the provost's office. And again, I don't know if other institutions have provost, but the provost is the person who actually runs the university, reports to the president of the university, which is the kind of the outward facing part of the university. But we have a written agreement that gives us certain rights for our organization as a retiree organization to access the university's databases, email. They host our website and a number of other things. They provide a little bit of money to us to specifically support what we call professional development grants for retirees. So as we all know, retirees, Emeriti faculty, in many cases continue their scholarly work, their academic contributions to the world and to their institutions, which requires, I don't know how they cannot do it without access to the university's email systems, which maintains their connection when they communicate to the outside world that they are legitimately connected to their universities and higher education institutions, as well as the scholarly research that exists online. Again, I could go on with many, many other things that we do here in Minnesota, but that's my hopefully brief answer to your question. And I'm happy to answer any of the questions as well.
There was a note that the
Basically,
University
I
of
would like to
Australia
say that we are noticing a major difference between Europe and North America, United States and Canada. And I don't believe it is just depending on the weather or any history. It depends on mentality. You Americans, Canadians can help us by providing documents, as you mentioned, for a document of the Minnesota, that we would publish and share with university administrators and governments, because many are really not only not taking care, they prefer that professors are cut away. It's by intention. It's not just, we like it or we don't. No, we don't want them to be there anymore. And this is very harmful to the country, to the society. And again, I would say Europe, sorry, I am from Europe, but we may not be proud of what we are experiencing.
I have another question. Is that across all of the countries in Europe and all of the higher education institutions, or is it more specific?
We do have records of those who have responded. I could say majority. I believe in Austria, for example, advanced country, no email account for retired professors, countrywide, except there is a private university in Vienna. They provide. We don't have data enough. We are not informed enough. And at least we would like to create an attention that something big is going on and something what is harmful to our lives.
Did they give a reason for cutting off Emeriti faculty from email systems? And the reason I ask that, in the United States, and I should say specifically with Minnesota, when they cut off the staff, they said it was for two reasons. One was for security, and the second reason was for cost.
Exactly the same we learned. First was security, then we asked, please give us one example of something bad happened and created by retired professors who didn't behave the way he or she should. No answer. The second reason was cost. And we asked, what does it cost per person to maintain email account? No answer. On a private basis, one of the previous rectors said, it's very low cost. But nobody talks about the figure. They just talk about the problem, which is cost.
I think Walter may be able to say something, but there is diversity across Canada about IT access. At the University of Calgary in Alberta, Professor Emeriti have it. Support staff have to apply for it within 1 year of retirement now. That's the policy. So if they don't apply for it, they won't get it. But if they apply for it within the year, they get it. Walter, I don't know nationally. There's diversity is my understanding. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's all over the map in Canada. So your situation with regard to use of university email accounts and so forth varies according to the institution you are at. Some institutions have formal written agreements with their retiree associations. Some don't. Mine does not. So these arrangements are sort of informal, but they do vary enormously across the country.
Yeah, just to be clear, all the Emeriti, they have right to access IT. This is what we are talking is about those who are not Emeriti and are not engaged. If you have a contract with some company, you work through the university, then you also have the connection to the IT. So this is only for those who are not in this position, and this is really not a cost, because from our experience, there are very few people who want to work on when they are retired. So it is no excuse to help them. We have some sort of a system. They have an email address which is guest University of Maribor. Yeah, this is they have not the right to access all the privileges of the normal active workers or Emeriti.
Yeah.
Can I make a point here? There's been an interesting information exchange here, and I should point out that ChatGPT has a deep research option, and it would be possible to ask ChatGPT deep research the same questions you've been asking each other. And I know, Sandy, that you've done this. It takes more than just a second. It scans the web, it identifies sources, it provides a summary. Of course, before you ask the question, if you say, do some research on this topic, it will say, what's the point of view you're looking for? So you may want to say, I want to look for situations, I want to look for reasons, I want to look for rebuttals of certain cases, that kind of thing. So it might be an interesting activity for somebody to see if ChatGPT can provide some of the information that you've learned and answer some of the questions that you've asked in this last few minutes.
So if Walter, for example, says to you, says to the national group, how are we thinking about this? We could always ask you for help, couldn't we? That's a suggestion, Walter, not a motion. So you may help us do that if that board felt it was relevant. I think there should be a disclaimer here. So for those of you that don't know, Martin is my husband. I thought I just better say that out loud.
And for those who don't know, Sandy is my wife.
So this is a serious conflict of interest here.
I about declared it, Walter.
Okay.
But if that was the direction from the board, I'm sure I could get Martin to help us. He helps
Absolutely.
An
Yes,
age-friendly university, yes.
Yes.
That seems like a very interesting suggestion. And since we have a board meeting coming up in about 48 minutes, perhaps that's one thing we can discuss then, Sandy.
Yeah.
Dina has her hand up, Walt. I know that.
No, thank you. No, I want to thank Sandy and Martin for their presentations. And before we get on to Aaron, if he is next, so I will admit that I think that Sandy's slide on the what I call the cautions or the disadvantages and the benefits probably was the one that resonated with me the most. And the reason I have my experience with ChatGPT started in spring of 23 before I formally retired from the university, but then I've continued on with my research and professional activity. And at UMass Boston, just like Eric was talking, we are a state system, and yes, we do have full access to continue. So that part has been good. But my aha moment with ChatGPT was with student papers that started coming in. And my goodness, students for whom English was not the first language all of a sudden had these beautifully written essays and things like that. And then and it just, so in addition to we'd always use a program, turn it in terms of plagiarism. So all of a sudden they started developing this AI, chat checking the percentage of which is actually student original work and everything. So gosh, I mean, it's like, to have to be concerned about all of that. And then while I could see the uses in terms of tedious tasks like minute taking, things like that, I do get concerned, I think in terms of taking over too many of the faculty responsibilities. I had heard a workshop of colleagues were saying, we're using it to create our syllabus. We're using it to create, and I'm thinking, hey, that's the faculty role. Where is your own, are you losing that ability? And then as someone who does work in terms of Alzheimer's, I want you to continue with that brain reserve and continue developing that and increasing those synapses. So, that where is that threshold that gets crossed? I think that and Sandy, you definitely did address this. You said you're not just going blindly with this. You're really doing a lot of work after you see these, what's generated. But not everybody will do that. And the extent to which, we've even seen where, and then in terms of reviewing articles and publications and stuff, you're seeing where people with ChatGPT creates references that don't exist. It's like just so anyway. There's a lot of caution. I think it's an incredible tool, but I don't want people to lose their ability to critically assess with that as well.
But you raise another issue, Nina. You're totally right. It's the ethical issue. And to me, there are certain ethical things. I am responsible for that document. I am responsible to ensure that it's accurate, that it's concise, that it meets what I want. It's that human element that Martin got. But there's an ethical behavior here. So when I check off, I didn't use ChatGPT or artificial intelligence to review a manuscript. I'm being honest. I didn't do it. When I wrote a reference letter, I didn't do it. I did it out of my own head. So it's that ethics. And
yeah, these are all really good points, Nina. One early writer on this topic is a man called Ethan Mollick. I just chatted his name, and he's an academic, and he ran into this problem, and he's written widely about how to use AI constructively in the classroom. One of his early examples was getting his students to write an essay on a topic, a management topic, and then critique it. And that was good. Now, of course, you can get AI to do the critique, but so it's kind of recursively problematic. But he's written very, very broadly, and he's very respected commentator on the problems and opportunities of using AI in educational situations. The other thing is AI has got a lot of biases built into it, so that if I ask it to write an article on a topic, it will take the perspective of the data that it's been trained on. And so there are certain underrepresented groups that don't show up in the data because they haven't written or been written about from a certain point of view. So a lot of, if you ask AI to come up with a description of an AI consultant, it may look like me.
Bill has a hand up too, Martin. And if Bill with a question for us or a comment.
Yeah, sure. So AI does have a lot of biases built in. It does generate nonsense. One of the like I told you, it made up a bio for somebody. It also sometimes has its own commentary. So some of the events that it reformatted for me, it added a flattering comment about the speaker. And I thought, okay, so I could change the prompt. So it added an unflattering comment if the professor was talking about history, which was not my favorite subject at school. So it's very open to manipulation, and that's a simple example of how what looks like a prompt that I give to Carolyn to update her event calendar could easily be manipulated in subtle ways or not subtle ways. So there's the bias and the inaccuracy. I don't trust anything that comes out of ChatGPT. I had a LinkedIn. I challenged somebody on LinkedIn, and I wanted to just check to see if my challenge was valid. And I put their post in that I disagreed with heartily, and said to ChatGPT, "So what do you think of this?" And it said, "Oh, very good." But so then I said, "Yes, but what about?" And we went into a Socratic dialogue, and it said, "Well, actually, it's not quite as good." And then it ended up by agreeing with me that really, it's only a vague metaphorical comparison of two ideas rather than anything strictly valid. So it is untrustworthy. I would say, I say like this, that if you're a bright person, that's us, ChatGPT can make us more thoughtful, brighter, try out new ideas, new combinations of thoughts. If you're not bright, it can't make you bright. You have to, the real skills that you need for AI are not AI skills. They're thinking skills, conceptual thinking, breaking down problems, communicating problems, assessing the results. So AI is a tool to help you do your normal academic research in innovation type work. It's not a replacement. It's just a tool and a fairly unreliable one at that. So that's my perspective when I use it.
Yeah.
Bill, you had a comment. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I did. In terms of the accessibility issue, because Walter pointed out, there's a variability across the country. I'm talking Canada here. But there's even a variability within the university. At our university, University of Manitoba, which does vary a little bit. I think Canadian versus US, at least that's our direct comparison. Professor Emeriti would have access kind of automatically, but that's an earned position. One has to apply, and it's kind of an honorary designation. One doesn't have to be active. One just gains that access because of that designation. There's another category we have, which is senior scholar, which one applies to and then would gain access through that position if in fact they were granted that position, and that position is for a term. So one applies for it, I think it's up to 3 years, and then has to reapply, Professor Emeriti, you have it. You have it for life. And then there's the other academics. That's not a position. It's those who aren't Emeriti and those who aren't senior scholar then are there. And quite frankly, I'm not sure what their accessibility is to IT and email, probably generally as any retiree. But I mean, it's interesting. I was listening to the conversation and thinking about our own institution. So I've created a couple of questions for myself to check that at the next opportunity through the University of Manitoba Retirees Association. But nonetheless, it's interesting to have that variability. And when people talk about the position of the Emeriti, I know at least in some universities in the US, Eric, you can correct me, but or maybe it's all that Emeriti means any academic who's retired in Canada, at least ours. It's earned. It's a designation given to those who are deemed worthy.
I think that we are close now to say thank you for the presentation of our colleagues in Canada. My impression is that it is a very important area that we have to help others to learn about it. Personally, I learned about what you are doing with ChatGPT. I never tried. So much to learn and improve my personal knowledge. You open up many, many important perspectives and ideas. So thank you very much. And please assist in bringing European universities to similar level from the perspective of using information technology. Now I would like to invite...
Sorry. We have a national conference in May in Montreal, Quebec. So I think there is some access to that online, but we would welcome our colleagues to join us in Montreal.
Yep. We'll send out a notice about that.
Perfect. Perfect. Now I would like to invite Professor Aaron Guest. He is in a position of being a representative of a very important global network of age-friendly universities. To our meeting, this is an important contact for several reasons. One, they are experienced in global. They have many universities on the list of age-friendly universities. They are anxious about age-friendliness of universities, which is also our concern. And he, as the leading person in the coordination of the network, can be very helpful in bringing networks together. We are very much looking forward to working with him. University of Maribor in Slovenia is a member since 2000. We are very happy to be a member. We believe there is so much to be done. And one of the ways how to do it is e-collaboration. So, Professor Guest, you have the word.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for having me. I apologize for being, I think, a little late. Apparently, when I saved the invite, it didn't convert to Arizona time because I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're very complicated in that we have our own time zone here in the United States. But I'm happy to have the opportunity to briefly just give you an update on the Age-Friendly University in the next 10 minutes or so. The Age-Friendly University Network goes back to 2012 with the global network launching in 2014. In 2023, the Secretariat moved here to Arizona State University, and we've been leading it since. Really, the impetus of the Age-Friendly University Global Network came out of the WHO's work, where universities were finding themselves engaged in the process of becoming age-friendly cities, but then following kind of the age-friendly city process, individuals were being, and universities were kind of not being engaged as fully. So one of the things we really are that they were focusing on at Dublin City University, where the network really developed, was how do we encourage civic participation and university engagement within age-friendly communities? And there's a lot of reasons for this. We know that we have changing demographics in higher education. We have in the United States and Europe, we have a decline in traditional student populations, a growth in non-traditional students. We also see rising diversity in the types of students. At the same time, populations are aging. The skills needed to survive in the economy and the rise of things such as micro-credentials and certifications are increasing, and that institutes of higher education are undergoing a radical transformation. And really for us, it's the recognition that universities can serve as a central hub in their environment, including training the workforce, developing and evaluating interventions. They're situated in communities, but they're also communities and health systems and employers, and that they're major economic drivers of their local communities. With this in mind, in 2011, a group of international scholars gathered in Dublin City University to develop the 10 principles of an age-friendly university. The 10 principles being what guides our work and encourages us to promote age-friendly work throughout the globe. And these 10 principles focus on engaging older adults in the core activities of their university, helping and focusing on the development of second careers, recognizing the range of educational needs of older adults, including those who seek continuing education and lifelong learning, as well as those who wish to obtain additional academic degrees. We are very, a lot of my research focuses on intergenerational learning. And so how do we have reciprocal sharing of the expertise between learners of all ages? We want to continue to widen the online educational opportunities for older adults. And while COVID certainly advanced these efforts, what we find is these online opportunities remain divided. We also want to ensure that older adults are represented in the research agenda of the university, that they're not only represented, but they're also guiding it, that we're recognizing the longevity dividend that's occurring, and we're really looking at the richness that brings to the university. What we do is we try to take a strengths-based perspective to aging. We also want to see how we can engage older adults in the university's range of health and wellness programs, as well as cultural activities. And really importantly, I think to this group, how can we engage the university's own retired community in these efforts, so that it's not just something the university is doing for those outside the university, but also for those within. And then we want to ensure that there's dialogue with organizations representing the interests of aging populations, like we're doing here. We're really excited about the growth of the network. I think since I last saw you, we now have 121 active members, with 6 more currently waiting to receive their endorsement letter. We represent 21 countries, over 195,000 faculty, and over 2 million students attend an age-friendly university. So we're continuing to grow. Since we've taken over here at Arizona State, we've welcomed almost 30 universities to the age-friendly global network. And of course, we have universities that are entering and exiting the network at various times. And so we're excited about our continued growth and the membership that we have. We operate on a global network model, but we also have regional leads throughout the world. In North America, Arizona State University is the current regional lead, but we will be stepping away from that and retaining the global secretariat come August. In South America, PUC Campinas in Brazil is the regional lead. In Oceania, the University of Queensland, Australia is the regional lead. And in Europe, the University of Strathclyde, which was one of the 3 founders, along with Dublin City University, Arizona State, serves as the regional lead. And I'm happy to put you in contact with Alex in any ways that she can support you. Many of you probably have met or remember Christine O'Kelly from Dublin City University, and she still remains very active in our executive council and engaged. I wanted to share with you a little bit about what we have going on, and then what we have coming up, and then I'm happy to take any questions. Just to say that, people always ask me, what are the most important principles? Well, I say there are no important principles, but if we look at what the universities say, Principle 1, engagement in the core activities of the university. Principle 6, informing the research agenda. Principle 4, intergenerational learning. And Principle 7, the longevity dividend, are the principles that universities rank as the most important to their ongoing work. And so we do keep track of that just to know where are our universities working and what are they focusing on. As members of the global network, we do host regional forums. We recently just had our North American Regional Forum, and this is an opportunity. I recognize some of you on the call from that, for us to get together and talk about emerging topics or to come together as a region. The European region will be having an upcoming regional meeting in the coming months, I believe over the summer is the plan. We also have launched working groups, which these are topical groups focused on a specific activity or a specific need. So right now we have working groups focused on mentorship, small regional universities, as well as actually Catholic institutions, as we have a large Catholic institutional presence within the network. We also have a best practices and resource guide that's being developed. We have a monthly newsletter that comes out that you're welcome to sign up for. We also provide opportunities for webinars as well as practicums for students who are interested in working with a global network, as well as university collaboration and consulting the best we can, as well as a host of marketing and media resources to help the institutional members really promote what they're doing. I encourage you all, if you haven't already, to sign up for our listserv. It's a great way to stay aware of what's going on and how we're being engaged. And I'll put this in the chat afterwards. And I wanted to talk briefly about some new things that we have that have come up that might be of interest to this group as we continue our collaboration. The first is we have launched a new badge, and the badge is an opportunity for you to include the AFU designation on your university's webpage, on your university's logo, on university's documents, or other documents that you might state that you're an age-friendly university. It's smaller than our regular logo, and it's just an opportunity to say, hey, we're an age-friendly university, or this is an age-friendly university endorsed practice. And we do have those available, and if I happen to see you at a conference coming up, we also have some buttons and stickers available now. We've also developed an endorsement handbook. So the endorsement process to join the age-friendly university really requires that an institution undergo a process of evaluation, identifying what are the age-friendly practices and our age-inclusive practices that it has, as well as what age-inclusive or age-friendly practices it might be developing. Critically, for our program, we don't require active programs to be going, only the plan for programs. And that's because we recognize that individuals come into age-friendly at all different levels, and we want to help mentor and nurture them. This guidebook for endorsing the 10 principles walks through the process of becoming an age-friendly member. It covers what's in the application, and we have an associated actual workbook that individuals can fill out as they're completing their application now. We have just last month launched a mentorship program, and we have institutional members who are willing to work with you as you become an age-friendly university to help guide you in the process of becoming an age-friendly university. We're really excited about that. We have 2 institutions that have signed up and are participating as mentors right now, and we hope to increase that when we formally launch it. Based on popular demand, we have also made it available to join the Age-Friendly University as an affiliate member. What this means is that it is open to individuals and organizations that support the mission of the Age-Friendly University Global Network. And it provides individuals the opportunity for networking, to support initiatives, as well as to participate in certain events, as well as to hopefully host events with our institutional members. So this is available to individuals and affiliate members now. This actually, I can tell you, developed out of collaboration with institutions in Mexico, where the local governments are really driving the age-friendly process. And we have about 7 universities, or 7 institutes of higher education in Mexico currently working to join the network through their local government. But we wanted to find, the local government was really interested in finding a way to be engaged. There are some exciting things happening. We have working groups that have launched, and we're accepting applications for the formation of new working groups that are focused on issues of importance to our institutional members. And all it requires is one member to lead and some interested parties. We have launching in August of 2025 will be a database of best practices available to members. We're really excited about this. It will be accessible to our member institutions, and we're really trying to fill this up with best practices. So, for example, if allowing Emeriti faculty to have access to their email is something we can document, we can put it into the best practices. We will be hosting a North American regional meeting focused on the future of longevity in higher education in winter of 2025. And then I'm really excited that we are actually in the process of bringing on our Asian regional lead, our regional lead for Asia. We have about 10 universities in Asia right now, and we have been working with them to identify a way forward for them to develop their own regional lead. That will leave Africa as the only region that we don't have a currently active regional lead, though we are doing a lot of work to engage with our African colleagues, including hoping the opportunity to attend the upcoming meeting in Africa focused on age-friendly practices and environments. For institutional membership, I just wanted to mention that, generally the way it's focused, for those of you who might have questions, is that it's focused on developing an age-friendly university committee, followed by documenting and accessing, identifying a letter from the administration because it is an institutional process, and then submitting the endorsement application. And of course, as I mentioned, we welcome existing programs and activities, as well as planned or future activities that the institution is looking at in order to help bring up the next generation of AFUs. And we do ask for documentation of at least 2 principles. Membership is open to all institutes of higher education. We find that it, on average, takes about 3 months to achieve the designation, some longer, some shorter. Lately, it's been taking about a semester. Currently, there's no cost to join the Age-Friendly University Network, and we aim to keep it that way. I will say our budget is currently 60% frozen, because I don't know if you know, but there's some crazy things going on in the United States right now. And so our budget has been, we're very lucky to the ASU supports us, but they have frozen quite a bit of that now. As well as we also host virtual interns and practicums, and we're willing to, and we invite pieces for our newsletter and things like that. I encourage you to check out our website at afugn.org, as well as feel free to reach out to me either at either email. We also have a LinkedIn page and a YouTube page where you can actually go and see some of our previous materials. And with that, I'll actually end. I apologize for being a little being late. Like I said, I think the time messed up, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, where'd she go, that one of the reasons AFU is so popular, I think, in the United States actually is because of Nina Silverstein, who during her Aggie presidential year made it a priority. So I don't often get to thank Nina for her work in the initial launch of it. But we're really excited for everything that's going on. We're happy to connect with you all, and we're really looking forward to how we can promote you. And if you have questions about institutional, who might be a member in your country, you can visit our website, shoot me an email, and I'll let you know. But thank you all.
Aaron, thank you very much for this presentation. Personally, I believe there are 2 important messages. Global. Wherever we go, problems are very similar, and internet is global. And second, age-friendly. Age-friendly or age-unfriendly is a major issue in many places. For example, for the first time this spring in the European Union, research is going on about the discrimination upon age in Europe. Discrimination is something what we didn't talk about at all. Now, there is a questionnaire. Well, it's in the process now already. Discrimination upon age. the network that just described, but Aaron guessed, is something what is very useful, important to us. And of course, as he stressed, no cost, and they hope to keep it that way.
Yeah.
We would like to collect some ideas, questions from you about what we together could do, not just for ourselves, for our colleagues who do not know about those opportunities. Please raise the hand and speak up.
One thing I would say that we've had, and I can just mention this because I always joke that, last week I was speaking in Croatia. The week before that, I think I was in the UK, but I was really just sending greetings to our new institutional members. One of the things we're really working hard on is translating our material so that it's accessible to a broader array of languages. It turns out that takes a lot more time than one would think. There's not really good words for age-friendly in a lot of countries. And so, what I would say is if you have recommendations, if you know institutions in your country would be welcome, but there's questions about language, let us know. Our website's available in 32 languages right now, and we're working to make the materials available in additional languages as well.
Could I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that age-friendly university, which we in Canada have been aware of for probably over 10 years, that you have some communication with University of the Third Age. I have citizenship in France, and of course that's very, very popular. And most of the members of University of the Third Age are retired professors. So there needs to be some kind of a greater connection and ongoing communication
Absolutely.
to help fight ageism.
Absolutely. We try to collaborate with them as best we can. I know our European regional lead does a lot of the collaboration with them. We've started working with them more in South America. Unfortunately, in the United States, the universities of the Third Age, for lots of reasons, didn't necessarily pick up in the same way.
I'm not talking about the US.
Yeah.
Their University of the Third Age are a bit bizarre.
Yeah, and we're also working a bit with them in French-speaking Africa around launching the age-friendly university where it's really popular. So we do have we have a lot of informal connections with them. We want to connect with them a bit more.
Make more formal ones.
Yeah, the United Kingdom, for example, the universities of the Third Age kind of went
that's a different kind of a model.
Yeah. So, that's been one of our challenges is every country seems to have a bit of a different model of the universities of the Third Age. But we are trying to work with them as best we can in French-speaking countries.
There's essentially two models. One's a social support model, and the one in France and elsewhere in Europe is more of an academic model.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay. And keep in touch with Canada, please, okay?
No, we will. We have 10 universities in Canada now, I believe.
Well, we've got Bill Copps here at this meeting, who's probably a leader in the world in University of the Third Age. Yeah. Bill, do you want to say a word?
Well, it wouldn't be me. It would be Michelle Porter, who I do a little work with. Michelle is head of the Center on Aging here. So we've been at it for a long time. Still sometimes struggle to get the university administration, who signed on in 2016 to this idea, to move some of the principles along, shall we say?
Yeah,
that's right.
Michelle,
but nonetheless,
I was going to say, I feel like Michelle and I talk once a week, maybe sometimes. But yeah, she's great. And I see a lot of familiar faces, but what I would just say is that we're here to help. I know that we've had a lot of conversations about trying to identify best practices around IT. As we build our best practices database, our general rule is we don't try to enforce anything on universities because we recognize that there's a lot of pathways to age-friendly. and there's a lot of pathways that individuals can interpret the principles. But what we do want to make available are best practices that they could follow. So when we launch our best practice database, we'll definitely reach out to you to ask for, what are the best practices you're seeing around access to email and things of that nature.
Yeah. Erin? Yeah. So one thing that's come out of the discussion, something I've been hearing in today's discussion, is that yes, there's the emphasis on Emeriti faculty, and that's the acknowledgement of faculty who are not Emeriti, and but also the staff, retired staff, really are so overlooked and not given even. I mean, it's their email. Even on my campus, their email is just cut off. And that's, to me, that's a group that really hasn't received the attention, and maybe there's some strategies through AFU and others that could be advocated for to move and recognize that engagement of retired staff members as well.
No, that's really important, and thanks for bringing that up, and that's something we'll look into. I know at ASU, staff can retain their email if they request to, if they've been here 5 years and they request to retain it, they can, but a lot of staff don't know to request to retain it. And so, I think that's something we should definitely look into and identify some best practices and do some trainings and webinars on it. One of the challenges we found when we transferred the network here is that a lot of staff had left, but no one had bothered to update the emails, for example. And we know that, I just saw some data on the turnover. I wish I had it in front of me about the turnover we're having in higher education right now. So I think finding ways that we can continue to engage our university staff is really critical, because I agree. I think they're an overlooked population.
Yeah. So, and well, and then the other thing that I just can't resist is, yes, Erin referred to turmoil in the United States, and we cannot. It's quite awful, and attack on higher education as well. But the term unproductive was recently used by a person who shall remain nameless, and who is unproductive? Clearly, people with disabilities, or people that we are concerned with. So gee, this threat of ageism has gotten to a big height that, and I think you were all talking about this too, in terms of subtle reasons, things that across Europe, in terms of how older faculty are looked at as well. So so I think it's real important.
And I would just say one of the most fascinating things here in the United States is we've had a lot of attacks on what they're calling diversity, equity, and inclusion. But for the best cases in most of the states we're working in, it doesn't include. They're not focusing on age, which is, there's one state that's an exception that we've ran into some problems. But we have a state that both has no DEI laws on the books, but also has a requirement that all of their universities become age-friendly universities. And I'm not going to bring it to their attention, but it's a fascinating environment we're currently in the U.S.
That's one word.
Yeah. But thank you all for having me. And if you have additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm definitely here to assist you in any way I can.
Is there any other question anybody would like to ask, either to our presenters of today or in general about our future actions? Otherwise, I would like to thank all of you, the presenters in particular, Aleksandar Erceg, for organizing again the Zoom meeting. We are learning that this group is very valuable. Step by step, we are collecting email addresses of more and more members that we would like to see them engaged and collaborating with not just our network, but among themselves. It is a very valuable approach in the society with active aging being a major issue and important area. So thank you very much for your action, your support, your activity, and please advise about what you would like to discuss in next meetings. And please, again, advise how can you use some of your documents, formal documents, that relate to age friendliness, using technology for retired professors and retired staff. We are supposed to do something for them. This is, I understand, our moral obligation. Thank you very much and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you for bringing.
Thank you.
Ciao, Gio. Io però preferivo il bambinone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arriva. Tra la figlia. Ma questa chi sarà? Che ne so.
I wished I could understand that.
Abbiamo tutti.
Thanks a lot. That was great.
That was good work, Josie, and your co-chair there. Yeah.
Caroline, thank you very much.
I'm going to be sending you the suggestion for the next meeting.
Bravo, bravo.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Io sono impegnato, guardi. Mi dica lei chi è?